I need to introduce a very special guest this evening. She recently won an award from the Cultural Council of Jacksonville and premiered her play On Purpose right here in our city. She is a literary artist, performer, and educator, and is the first woman to establish her own chapter of the international poetry organization Black on Black Rhyme. She is the managing director of the Performers Academy and a member of Southern Fried Poetry Council. She has performed at the New Orleans House of Blues, Jax by Jax, TEDx FSCJ, as well as other countless colleges, universities, and prestigious entertainment venues all across the country. I know you will enjoy her. Please welcome Ebony Payne-English.
Peace and blessings, everyone. When I give things out to the world, I'm not going to touch it. There we go. The world usually gives them back. So peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you. I'm Ebony Payne-English, and my first suicide attempt was when I was 10 years old. Growing up in the United States, in the South, as a very intelligent, thoughtful, young, poor black girl was not the easiest thing. I read a lot of books. I wasn't allowed to watch television because my father was convinced that it would pollute my brain. And I just didn't have a lot to talk about with other kids my age. And I was teased. I was severely bullied. And it took a toll on my self-esteem and also my ability to interact with the rest of the world. In my household, we didn't believe in therapists. We went to church, and we tried to pray everything that was wrong away. So my parents didn't really quite know what to do with my depression, except take me to the altar and try to pray my sadness away. And when that was ineffective, I imagine it must be exhausting to love someone who suffers from depression, especially at a very early age, because people think that children are not supposed to be sad. Because children, as long as you have food to eat and a place to live and people who love you, they naturally are strong and resilient, and they adapt really well to things, especially things that they don't quite understand. They kind of just keep it moving. What's interesting to me is that the women in my life, from a very early age, do the same thing. They just keep it moving. If things happen, if tragedy strikes, if things go wrong, every woman that was an adult that was in my life just kept it moving. Just dried her face, put on some red lipstick, and went on with life. And so I thought that I was supposed to do the same thing, and when I was incapable of doing that, it stifled me a lot. So I've got poetry. It was introduced to me really via Tupac Shakur. My cousin moved from Chicago, and he used to tease me for being sad all the time. He told me little kids aren't supposed to be sad. And he had this tape. It was Tupacalypse Now, which was Tupac's first album. And he threw it at me. He was like, listen to this. He's sad too. Y'all be sad together. And so I listened to it. And I heard this song called Brenda's Got a Baby. And I talked a lot about the socioeconomic conditions of the world around him and how that affected his own humanity and his own emotional content. And it was what I was feeling. And I began to write out things that bothered me. And I became a successful artist, and I began doing it for a living. And I forgot about checking in on myself because I was preoccupied with everything else. So life happened, and things began going awry in the world around me. And one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. Like my body physically would not move. I couldn't get up. And I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. I tried to will myself, like, come on, Eb, just get up. I had so much going on. I was in the middle of a tour, and I was just talking to myself, like, get up, come on, get up, get up. You're going to be late, get up. Nothing. I couldn't even get my arm to, like, loosen up enough for me to reach for my cell phone to call for help. I had smushed everything down inside for the sake of survival. Like my brain had adapted in that way to keep me going, to keep me from having a nervous breakdown, would just smush everything so I could keep it moving and keep it going. I hadn't addressed the fact that I was in an abusive relationship, and my ex-boyfriend, when I broke up with him, shot himself. He killed himself. And I was the last person he ever called. And that happened, and I kept performing. I kept touring. I didn't miss a beat. I went to the funeral, and I went and caught a flight right after and kept it moving. I graduated with honors, cum laude from college. Kept it moving. My very dear friend was murdered by her partner, her romantic partner, and she had just left my house to go home to him because he was calling. And I just kept it moving. My grandma had a heart attack, passed away, and I just kept it moving. And so one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move because I had been moving so much. And I had a very severe panic attack. I was hospitalized. They thought that I'd had a heart attack. And so I started doing these things called check-ins, self-affirmations, to remind me that I matter and that it's important for me to pause sometimes and see if I'm okay. Like, raise your hand if some point today you stopped and said, am I okay? Am I good? You see how few of us actually do things like that, which would be why so many of us are walking around on autopilot, in danger of these kind of things. Stress kills people. Depression kills people every day, and it's the simple things. Something as simple as saying, am I okay? So I'm going to do a poem and allow the program to continue, but if we could just find our skin with a hand and put it somewhere on your body and repeat after me. I am whole and complete. I am divinely capable. Life is blessed by my presence. And I am present. And I am ready. And I am willing. All right. You're not going to feel like that every day, but when you say it out loud, it does help to encourage that energy. When I'm having low moments, sometimes I just need to find my skin. I'm whole. I'm as whole as I'm gonna be, and I'm willing to keep living. For my friend Valencia, who was escorted from the courtroom as she reached for her husband after sentencing. She watched in horror as they carted him away for a 3,650-day cage stay that day. A white male with 3 prior violent convictions, who was convicted of the same exact crime, received 10% of the time, and even those 365 days will not be served in a cage. He got probation. This nation does not deserve my poetry, but Valencia's husband does. May it envelop him like a warm hug. May every letter band-aid the severed humanity of his existence. May love travel the distance to deliver these kisses of mourning, so that his mornings aren't plagued with thoughts of whether or not his autistic daughter has forgot that daddy loves her. May this poem communicate daddy loves her. May this poem commemorate the day that I decided that it's okay if I'm not okay. I'm disgusted with myself and the way I've carried on with coordinated obligations after Lil Rob's little brother was pulled from a ditch and the police referred to him as the suspect instead of Terrence on the news. May this poem commemorate the day I took a break from regular business to be patient with myself. May this poem be considerate of my health. May this poem be the moment I need to escape, take it all in, fall apart and build again. May it be the crumpled piece of paper in the pocket of Francis Scott Key as he watched his country burn from the belly of an enemy ship. May this poem be a legendary gift. May it anthem a story of triumph and glory when I fall silent, listless with trauma and depression. May this poem be the progression of my healing and the restoration of my voice. May it be the noise that awakens my restless spirit. May I hear it enough to memorize, because most days as of late I've been off page. My psyche, self-preservation, has presented its interpretation of current events with a side of Novocaine. I am not the same brand of sensitive I once was. I am out of touch with instinctive reactionary behavior. I'm afraid my human nature is evolving. New adaptations falling short of empathetic capabilities as a means to survive the news feeds, the timelines, the bodies. The absence of justice is the very presence of terror, and I am being terrorized into numbness, and numbness is why I stopped drinking in the first place. I wanted to get my emotions straight. I wanted my feelings back, and yet I still lack the emotional aptitude to react to the current state of the union. Because I am a leader, I am often ashamed to admit that. May this poem admit that. May it be painfully honest. One of my Mwaza sent me a text the day a man was lynched in Piedmont Park. Dear heart asks me, why does everything suck? And the only answer I could muster up was because we're Black. I do not remember the exact moment the hope fled from my eyes, salty and wet, slapping my face with peaceful protests and violent deaths, marches and stand your ground assassinations, visuals and acquittals of officials salaried with taxpayers' debt who took an oath to serve and protect, and yet over 562 Americans dead at the hand of law enforcement last year. My tears have deserted me and dried. There once was a time I cried at the thought of Tamir Rice and his sonless mother. My hands used to hover over the darkness in my belly. The memory of my empty stomach would plummet me to abysmal grief. I consider the abortion I had at 19. And I call myself a hypocrite. Another black boy toyed to death by those who play God for fun or fear. I still have nightmares about these 14 years I did not spend raising a child in this world where early graves are the flowered beds that lay to rest the headstones of young bones of strange fruit plucked from its mother's incompetent arms. We are unable to keep our children from harm or death or prison, or poison. May this poem be more than an admission of my guilt. May it be a remission of my baggage. I've been run ragged by the brunt. I am so broken and defunct. I wish it were just a funk or bad mood, but I feel bruised and damaged and lifeless and nothing. I need something to touch me. May this poem shatter my post-traumatic stress. May it allow me to decompress and release. May it allow my black life to matter, at very least, to me. Ashe. Thank you.